for you.
We choose truth over facts.
Never go full retard.
Come on.
Hey team, how we going? It is Kaz here from In the Trenches with Kaz, and we have some questions that were asked by you last night after giving basically a YouTube short to ask what is bugging you. What is a question that could populate what we want to talk about? Some interesting subjects came, as well as some that not so interesting. But I'll be answering those tonight and talking about some other things too. China, Taiwan, AUKUS, Quad, the Five Eyes, etc. Let's have a bit of a talk about that tonight. Let's get a little bit educated. And that education naturally goes both ways because I learn every stream as well. So let's have a look up here, make sure that, for starters, that the sound is going well, and then we'll get into it. Before we start, some sad news today, or maybe some relief. Jen, one of our loyal subscribers from the channel, Patreon member, etc., has just had a really, really hard few weeks, and she's just lost her mum today. That's Jen. Yeah, it's always sad. It's something that faces us all, and it's devastating. I've been messaging her back and forth, giving her support while she's down in Melbourne. She's from North Queensland, so it was a bit of a hike too, which makes it also a very, very awkward, emotional trip back home too when you're doing it hard. So if you've got any nice comments you can say in the actual the comments area, I'm sure they're going to make it to her and it can distract her. And to Jen's mum, I hope you had peace. I hope you're meeting up with everyone in the big clouds, all the aches and gone, and you're reunited with the people that have left maybe too early. You know, you never owe anyone money when you get to heaven. So we've got a bunch of questions that I'll be going through here tonight that were actually registered by you guys. And there's also some questions on top of that. We'll do a quick introductions first, but we've got Concerned Aussie. G'day, legends. Getting the popcorn ready. Good to have it here. Is it triple buttered popcorn, which is the only popcorn we should tolerate? We've got Jake spelt wrong. Great to have you here as always, mate. Survival man, Lightfoot, morals, money management, in that order. Well, morals and money, they tend to wipe each other out sometimes. In the Trenches with Kaz. A couple of missed computer. Yep, Chris Davenport. G'day, Chris. How you going? Nicole K. Hi, everyone. Hope all is well and you're all happy in a happy place. We are. Kaz, we need to catch up on a chat sometime. Absolutely. I can talk tomorrow if you want to. We don't belong in the current conflict. I agree. Has anyone here ever met someone from Taiwan? I know that America wants the semiconductors, or the world needs the semiconductors, and China needs them too. You could argue that it used to be territorial sovereign land of China, but then when they went to communism, Taiwan said, no, that is not us. We're a completely different country, willing to fight for it. You know, and I support them on that. But am I willing to lose an Australian son or daughter to go to Taiwan for semiconductors? Ooh, we don't get to volunteer for the conflicts we get to. Only the politicians, the ones that don't do any bleeding. Remember that, team. Be careful about being very quick to say that Australia should be somewhere when you're not going to pick up a fucking weapon yourself, but you want other people to go and die, that you also won't pledge to and that you'll forget. We had some people that had a problem the other day at even the concept of tax-free dollars to serving members in the future, whether it be Army, Air Force, Navy, whether it be paramedics, whether it be police, whether it be firemen. I thought it was fairly good, but there seems to be some resentment that they believe they're paying taxpayer dollars to people, so why should they get tax exemption? Well, I hate to tell you, but Australian soldiers, paramedics, police and firemen, etc., they pay as much tax as everyone else for their brothers to be beside them as well. And then they also pay it through GST, and they pay it through stamp duty, and then they pay it through the sausage roll, down the consumption taxes. You know, so guys, let's not be dicks about it. Evening all, how is everyone? G'day, Cass, how you going? She's someone that teaches people for a living. Meso, interesting scenario, would be fucked. Yep. Taiwan, should we go there? Okay, what happens if Taiwan becomes under attack from the big red corn ship we can call China from now, the land of MSG Szechuan? which doesn't agree with you the next day. Well, guess what? What happens if you all of a sudden don't keep any powder dry? You invest your troops over there. We don't even have enough. We don't even have 2 regiments. What if we actually send some people to go and help someone, then our own homeland, take some black swan events on our own land? Maybe into the South Indian Ocean to go and deal with the situation, only to be pulled away from our home. And then you got to be careful. Even your mate could be here. Jimmy Wriggle, good name, sounds like chewing gum. Maverick, Taiwan is a trap, they're Greek. And you're not saying the people are bad at all. Someone said something about Mr. Trump up here. As Trump had his way, it'd be the 4 eyes, not the 5 eyes. This is one of the biggest problems at the moment we're facing, Aussiana. At the moment, with each other. But it's not Trump's fault, I don't believe. He has listened as people have treated him goddamn horribly. Now, shouldn't he be treating the whole country based on the way their leadership is? Maybe not. Maybe he's trying to teach Albo a lesson for being so goddamn stupid to let Kevin Rudd, who disparaged the commander of the world so openly as a diplomat, ambassador. What a stupid move that. It's like sending your ex-wife to go and sort out something with common sense. It doesn't work. The way that Trudeau has treated Donald Trump in the past, absolutely horrible, and vice versa. I think he's just giving him a spank, putting him in line, then he's going to get him to go. Everything he's doing so far, loving his country. I love what he's doing with El Salvador, cleaning up his scumbags, sending him down there on a $6 million deal, cleaned up his own backyard, made his country safer overnight, getting rid of the BLM terrorism movement, which goes straight through Act Blue, corrupt money, that party. You probably didn't know about that. That's the first thing. We've got to get rid of the Black Lives Matter. All lives mattered that much. We'd be in the Congo right now, stopping the conflict between them and Rwanda. Maybe we'd be down stopping some of the killing that's happened in some of the countries in South Africa. Yep, we've got to be careful what we say, because you have to do a bit of bleeding to prove our point. Smokey B, I can't remember what sparked it today, but today I started looking into the war in Burma. It's crazy to think the entire world has just forgotten the war and is now obsessed with Ukraine and Israel. Absolutely. It's a case of look over here while something happens over here than anything, my man. Even a mate, good to be here. It's good to have you here. That's a cool name too. It sort of sits in the mind. Taiwan's trapped today, Cal 77. Yeah, buddy, quick question. Can reservists be deployed? They can. But what happens is when a reservist gets deployed, it's because for, or a full-time contract where they are then trained up with regular units, normally, and then sent over with a full-time contract. Do they go over as combat forces? Not normally. Not normally. But there is a whole bunch of people. Remember, their auxiliaries were their equivalent to their support company, the catapults, their cavalry, their archers, etc. Grande. Hey, Kaz, love from 5-7 area. Mate, I bet it's bloody hot up there, sir. Love back to you there, Theo, and to the boys in 5-7 doing littoral operations with the US. I hope when you meet all those Marines, I've worked with them a bunch of times, that your looks are a little bit better than your father, so you've got a chance in the strip with the 4 women that live in Darwin. Mate, say good day to the lads. Good to see us back together. Orthodox Outlaw. Well, perfect timing, just clocked off work. What do you do, Orthodox Outlaw? That's a great name. Simon Powell, sorry I'm late, dramas with my daughter. I've never heard a father say that before. I hope she's okay, my man. We've got one of our members here, one of our long-term members, Kane and Peppers. G'day, buddy. Nicole K, Simon, hey, Simon, up for a FaceTime after this. Bam, there you go. Atnima, hey, legends, how's everyone tonight? Good. Still at School of Inventory, Kaz. Still not in session. Broke my foot. That'll do it over Christmas. Leave. So now stuck in Malaya platoon. Mate, just take the time, get back to what you can be, mate, because the last thing you want to do is only have a partially healed ankle and then be going back into pack marches and trauma happening to your lower limbs. Say good day to everyone there, including those in Anzac platoon. We've got plenty of Van Houser, Meso. We cannot stand on the same military level as China without the US allies. We're fucked. But that's from the dawn of time. You know, we're a very small population. But that's why we're as strong as our allies. Someone asked some questions today. How would China take over Australia? Not Taiwan. How would they take over Australia? Let's talk about that. I don't even need to look this up to know how I'd do it. Do you know what I'd do? I'd ask what happens in Australia. They happen all the time. And then from there, what I do, considering there's more Chinese nationals in Australia than what there is Defence Force members, you know, in Australia, you're also considered to be representing China, you know, whether it be as a student, whether it be a business, whatever. You know, you could create 80,000 black swan events around Australia and completely implode all of our first responders. Before you know it, it'd be the same as having your eyes poked out at a swingers party. You wouldn't know whether you're grabbing a handful of man or girl. We'd be in all sorts of trouble. You know, they could take us over economically, so around what they're already doing. Answer me this. Why do we allow the China to lease our ports? Why do we allow China to buy our cattle farms? Why do we allow them to buy our airstrips? Why are they allowed to buy anything other than the fucking junk they make in Australia? You know, don't buy it over there. We should be reciprocal, like Donald Trump says. If you cannot buy anything in Australia, if I can't buy yours, if I can't buy land in Thailand, you can't buy land in Australia. Same deal with China. Same deal with anywhere else. Reciprocal. A bit of lag, yeah, man. And I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do about it. You know, but at the moment, yeah, let's say we've lost a few $100,000 in the last couple of years. Yeah, dealing with braces. Put me in, coach, Navy veteran. There we are. Simon, all the wars we follow the US into is enough pain. They're snakes. Mate, he's trying to get his country back to a what would you call it? He wants to get them back to a balanced economy, mate, and he's got to do it a hard way. I don't agree with him putting tariffs on Australia. On Canada, yes, I do. They've got tariffs on him. On Japan, you know, Japan's got 700% tariff on their rice. Japan needs the USA a lot more than USA needs Japan. Yeah, that's for sure. Mexico, they're learning the hard way now. You know, if Mexico was such a good country, they wouldn't have tens of millions trying to get to the USA. I don't have a problem with anything that Donald Trump's doing so far. It's when I agree with, I normally wait a week and realise I just didn't understand what he was doing. You know, they've got leadership, we do not. You know, I've seen Albanese speaking up to something I totally agreed about was when he got angry about the lass that came over from the US and grabbed that wombat, Joey, or whatever you call a baby wombat off the mother. And then I realised, what the fuck, what am I talking about? Every one of us has got a dog, stole, basically the stolen generation, took a puppy away from a pack animals family while it was still a baby and needed its mum, but we dragged it away. Now, we're all as bad as the chick that took the wombat just because we love it. The mother is still facing the trauma of losing all her puppies. China's real threat. They want to torment everyone around them and take over. Yeah, but they can't. That's the thing. They can't. There's something you need to remember about China. They don't have a single friend on earth. They can call themselves allies with Russia as much as they want, but there's no shared land. There's nothing there. You know, it is just the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing, you know. It's just a bit of saber rattling. And they're also geographically locked to each other, even if it is such a small border between them. But China doesn't have immigration there. There's no love for that country, you know, so they'd be in real trouble. Remember, they can't beat India. That's one country in the world. And that they can't beat Japan. They can't beat the USA. And they're going to come through all of those people pretty much to even get down into the waters near Australia. They can't project themselves down to Australia. But if they did choose to do so, there's nothing we could do to really stop them from coming and taking a slice of Australia, and then it'd just come down to the grace of God, AUKUS, the Quad, and the Five Eyes, to see whether we could come together and decide, is Australia going to be actually defended with boots on the ground? Now, the only people doing that is the only one that you guys seem to knock is the USA. They're the only motherfuckers with feet on the ground. It doesn't matter if it's here, their waterways. We don't see the British troops here. We don't see Canadian troops here. Do we? Right? New Zealand has said no nuclear subs. That's pretty easy when you're the southernmost country in the world, pretty much. But now we've got China down there. They didn't say to them, don't come near us with the nuclear submarines if that's what they're using. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a questions that came up, shall we? Okay, shorts. Bam. Bam. So we put this out yesterday, team, and we asked you. Basically, whatever you've got. So I'll answer these questions one by one. We'll get to you. Nicole says, keep on the back of AGV SA. They're incompetent. I worked with them as a civil defence after a discharge. There we are. Righto. So this is some of the questions. I'll go through these. Most of these I've pretty much vetted. Some are not worth talking about. Some are pretty good. But this one was a good one. This was from the VL Commodore. And he's basically said just a few ideas, perhaps about the word on the digger net about an SF unit being raised in Brisbane. Now, if there's an SF Special Forces unit being raised, it'd better be people from commandos that are actually based there, or SAS actually having a squadron based there, and not a new one. Too many SF units. Even though we need our 2 commando, and even though we need our SASR, because of where they actually recruit from, not just the direct entry, but also from the battalions, etc. When we don't have a fully manned 1 regiment of full-time soldiers, where the majority of the harvesting happens for Special Forces, what occurs is when a soldier gets a little bit disgruntled by his career, maybe considers getting out, or maybe he just wants to lean into excellence. What occurs is the travelling roadshow comes around, Special Forces. They say, do you want a different life? Do you want to see how good you can be? There's a home for you in 2 Commando. There's a home for you in the SAS. Maybe you're in engineers and you want to go over to that unit as well. And while ultimately what happens is the greatest leadership you'll ever see isn't with officers on the ground. It is the Nathan Clearys. It is the Jonathan Thurstons. And those guys live inside platoons as NCOs, not as officers. The officer, a lot of the time, consider them as your Ivan Cleary, just doing the more strategic shit up the top, but when you're actually on the field doing the tactics on the ground, men are controlled by section commanders, not by platoon commanders. And that's in the SF community as in the Royal Australian Regiment. So when that occurs and someone gets up and they're really, really good to go, and they're a celebrity of the battalion, they understand the dexterity, their capability is fantastic, they've got operational experience, they've got leadership. And then what happens is they get plucked, taken aside, and either someone comes up and takes that space, or no one comes and takes that space, and then you've got an absence. And then someone gets potentially made up because we just need some people on the junior leadership courses. Then from there, we're in trouble. Now we've got maybe a DEI hire ends up getting, and then from there, there's too much emotion and not enough capability creeping in. Right? So if it was a squadron or with commandos, awesome. But we can't afford, we could not sustain the 3rd unit of Special Forces. We just couldn't do it. And it'd probably mean they also have to drop the standard of Special Forces as well. KP, how you going, mate? Sons and guns out, Kaz. Okay, it took me 3 push-ups to get ready for tonight. Currently working, won't be long. Just a quick g'day. G'day, Carl P. Say g'day to the lads for me. And I'm going to go back to designing that shirt for you. That Charlie, Victor 22. Wave, and I know I just passed everything. Just need to do my PFA is quite easy. If you can get through a route, you can do that. The pros and cons of higher ready reserves. There is no pros of it until a situation arises. It's great for the individual, but for the army, there really needs to be that immersion. The amalgamation of Army Reserve unit. Whether do a billet system to the regular army, we give me an extra 2 soldiers, whether it be 3 RR in their buckets, M113s up in Townsville, and they go give us. And what we'll do is we'll teach them, and through osmosis, we can turn them into a version that will look like exactly like, but it's tough, even with CERCAT 4, if you're not in a full-time categorization, you're just not going to get that leadership, not going to get the training, going to get the opportunities to have that consistency that gets you to the level that we'd love you to be, unless you come over and actually work alongside regular forces. The new weapons that are coming out in 9, I don't believe in pistols going to regular infantry fighters, gunfighters at all, unless they're going to be the drivers of the new infantry fighting vehicle. Other than that, we don't need to be getting around with a secondary firearm. We don't need to. You can have your opinion on that. I think people have watched too many movies. To tell you the truth, if you're in front of me, and we're in a brick and we're going into areas, and you get an IA, I just want you to not try and fuck around and show how slick you are with a 9mm. I want you to drop to your knees straight away, because I have your shoulder. I don't want you fucking around with a fucking hairdryer. Get out of the way, or I'll just cap over the top of you and take the out. You don't have that split second. They know we're coming. Right? Special forces do it very well, but you're talking about hours, weeks, months of repetitive shock action. If we're going to have all the 9-bangers and grenades that we go in with them, remember the most special weapon in Ukraine is actually the grenade. Like it's a bloody football, like a softball match. They also look at the same 6.8mm systems that the Yanks have moved into. I totally agree with us moving into a weapon system other than the EF-88 if it's got armor defeating rounds. I believe in that. Righto. Thoughts and prayers for Jennifer, says Brady Carr. Great job there. Okay, what else we got? What I missed, Caswell, this is from Liam and Stevie Bryce, who's recovered a little bit over in Western Australia with his son. Great to hear. Dad suggested that with things hopefully coming down Ukraine, Russia, what is the likelihood of China having a go at Taiwan? Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with that, because Japan is right in that mix, and so is Korea. They've said before, I believe, that they will take out the Three Gorge Dam of China, which would be a humanitarian disaster on biblical scales. That should be enough to scare China. But this is not about anyone giving a single fuck about the people from Taiwan. I don't even know what they cook there. Jimmy Riggle says, hey, mate, would you love to hear you take on what you think of a war with China would look like, and how we would hold up if China decided to move on Australia? We'd have almost no hope without our allies. That's fine. I'd like to think that our allies like the US would move a carrier fleet down here. The logistics chain that would link China to the front would be severed fairly quickly. I don't think they could sustain it. I think they'd be in for a mess. I think that they would think they're going to do better than what they are. They've got a lot of ships. They don't have a lot of good ships. I don't think their soldiers have been tested at all. And I think it'd be like Russia going to the Ukraine. It'd be a real big bloody nose, really quick, and probably an embarrassment for China. I don't think that China can actually stand up to AUKUS. I don't. Economically, they would be crushed. Remember, China also has a whole lot of enemies within the Chinese mainland, and the problems they've got with their economy, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. Okay, what's your opinion on what's going on in South America with Venezuela? I didn't get a chance to look back into that. Are you talking about the socialism? Are you talking about the poverty that's happening there? At one stage, I believe they were the 6th richest country in the world, and then they went down the same lane as that socialism, left it leaning shit, and their country's gone to crap. They were fighting with Colombians when in 2008 when I was in the Sinai Peninsula between Egypt and Israel. And the Colombians and the Venezuelans didn't have a problem with each other as people, but they did hate each other's leadership. I need to do some more research in that one. Is AUKUS going to survive Trump? Yes, it will, but we need to understand our part. And Keir Starmer from the UK needs to realise that he's not in a very strong position at the moment. He'd be very careful the way he responds. He's potentially facing Australia even becoming a republic somewhere in the next 20 or so. I think the Commonwealth is going to get smaller. And I think that what we're seeing is the new drawing of the social lines. And if you don't get with the new program as the pendulums come back, I think you're going to pay for it. Anyway, someone was talking about the grenade too. About should we actually be changing our grenade, the F1 grenade, over to the US grenade. Now, a grenade is a hot potato. It's a dumb bomb. That's all it is. Now, I don't like the pin system, the twist and pull system that they have with the F1 grenade Australia has. I prefer the M26, which was basically a pin, and then it was just use some testosterone, pull it hard, and chuck that 455 grams of HE, and make sure you get it within 5 meters of the enemy. As a matter of fact, the scars on my face are from a mock grenade, an M30 that hit me square in the sandwich biters. Mr. Krug, how can you support Trump when he is trying to take over other countries, not by weaponry, but financially trying to take over? He's a modern day Hitler. That's a ridiculous comment. What countries is he trying to take over? Greenland, that would be a fantastic strategic country. He could take that over in a day if he wanted to militarily. He's not trying to do that. He wants the minerals they've got there, and he also wants to strategically remember that Alaska used to be Russian, and he bought that. Modern day Hitler. We need to be nervous of him as criminals and Houthis and lefties. Anyway, to provide passport travel parents, okay. What else we got? So I'm back now. I was on the phone with my daughter. She had a house broken into today. Oh, shit. Now, that can be really hard for anyone when you feel like the sanctity of your home has been broken, yeah? I'll back that comment for a second because it's an interesting one. We hear this all the time, but there's never any support for it. How can you support Trump when he's trying to take over the countries? I don't know what you're talking about there. You're talking about Canada, where he jokes around with them being the 51 state, but financially. It's called reciprocal tariffs for a reason, mate. He's getting tariffs, and you've never had a problem with that. Calling him Hitler, that's rubbish. He's not killing people. He's trying to make his country safe again. He's trying to get rid of the rot. He's trying to get rid of the government corruption. He's talking about trying to get rid of income tax for those on under 150,000. He's getting rid of criminals. He's closed up the border and made the country secure. He wants to get rid of men out of female sports so they've got the best opportunity to thrive. He wants to work on school choice so everyone can send their kids to whatever school they can to give them the best opportunity. He's getting rid of DEI, when it comes to schools admissions, when it comes to pilots, etc. So you've actually got someone safe in the cockpit. I don't know. I don't know what you don't like about him. Maybe you lean fairly left. I don't know. But I haven't really seen him step wrong yet. I do wish he'd pick up the phone to Albanese. We've been a fantastic ally for the USA. And in the biggest wars, we've beat them to the punch. So I think he needs to remember that. Australia's done a lot of blood, a lot of bleeding, for this world. And that's why the thumbnail says, why is it always the UK, Australia, and and America, they're doing the bleeding and the dying, yet we're the most hated countries. Is it because we're predominantly white? I don't know. The first two countries to get rid of slavery was America and England, yet they're the ones that cop the flak all the time. You know, over 250,000 people died during the Civil War to get rid of slavery and bring the rights back. You know, for US African Americans, but everyone forgets that. They'd rather believe in someone like George Floyd, who died of a drug overdose, something else. Strategic negotiations. Go and read history, and homework is to write a comparative list of Hitler's qualities and achievements. It is funny when they actually read out the H-man's speeches, and they don't tell you who. When they read it at universities, the uni students actually love it until they tell them who wrote it. But Simon Powell, the police in my daughter's bed. Okay, so it's not a robber. They haven't left the premises. It's someone that's probably substance and maybe someone with deep mental health, I'd imagine. Yeah, that sucks. I wonder if you'll get punished properly. We'll see. Hey, B-boy. Hey, Kaz, what's your perspective on the recent improvements in drone technology? And are you concerned if the Australian Defence Force was to use AI in some of its weapon systems and target acquisitions? We already do. We've got automated weapon systems, mate. We've already got those, especially in our naval vessels, man. Look, I don't think the drones at the moment, they're a real dangerous thing. There's no doubt about that. Is this the future of weaponry and warfare? Don't know. But every time we create something that's goddamn scary, a counter system comes out that actually defeats that. So we all, when we get it, we've got some awesome technology. Do we have any that we can project that actually has lethality or a kinetic ability? I don't believe we've got that yet as tools. But yeah, Buckarooni's real big one on that too. He hates the fact that we don't have offensive drone systems. Trump and the other guy are going in full on at the moment. Yep, you should never go into tariff war against a country that has you 99.99% covered. That's foolish. You know, that's trying to run your own country. I think it took just over 13 seconds for Canada to back down. Mexico knew stricken that with the border, and now they've had like a 91% plus reduction in illegal immigration. We've got the trend that just got kicked out of the USA, 260 of those got taken down at San Salvador. They'll get haircuts for life. They won't get visitors, no phone, not even a blanket or a pillow. That's a pretty big shot over the bow right there. Hey, Kaz, what's your favourite ECN, and is it 218? It's not. It's 343, as you know. CFM, the more time I do the military, I have conflict of interests and careers of what I could have done and what would my career military now. You know, for starters, the money is great. Second, the actual conditions are great, and you can basically stay in there almost as you want, you know, with open-ended service for stability and everything that comes with it. But I think to myself, if I was female, I'd be enjoying the call of the ocean, absolutely beautiful. Most of the time, you're going to be very, very clean. As you get older, there's no fitness time. There's no push-ups or anything like that, despite the fact they climb ladders and crap. The Navy would be fantastic. Now, I remember all the times I've been out in Navy ships, and I absolutely loved the sun deck, going and looking out at that beautiful ocean. Loved it. You could have so much pride when you're awesome. And then I think to myself, okay, I was infantry for 24 years, but I know that I would have loved cavalry as well. Armoured Corps, an unusual crew, an unusual group, you know, but they're very proud, they're very practical, they're very capable, and I reckon I would have had a ball there as well. Wouldn't have done, I reckon, would have been engineers, and that's because I like to put my hat down, I like to put my head down and have a rest sometimes. And those guys, Mr. Krug, Lots more I could discuss here, but always hard and chat. You're absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. I love hearing your point of view, but I disagree with some of it, and that's fine too. I learn on every stream I'm in. Hope you're coming to the camping with mates camping. Would love to chat. When's that happen, my dude? You hear about it now. I'm moving up. I'm going to Townsville for a week over Anzac Day. That's going to be fence is number one on the list. It's more important to me than the reunion, 30-year reunion for Rwanda. If that's not also a fantastic, what do you call it? A fantastic sign for all of you that are thinking about joining the military. Could you possibly think where 30 years later, the people get along so well that they're still having reunions with more than 100 people turning up? That's incredible. Incredible. We don't look the same. Not all of us. I do. I still look like a dancing lesbian. I get it. You know, but a lot of the blokes, you look at and you go, I don't even know who the fuck I'm looking at. And they haven't got sunnies on. You know, they used to have hair. But, dudes, all I'd say is your goal when it comes to fitness is you should be able to take your shirt off and go to the beach when you're 50 years old and not be embarrassed. Doesn't matter how you get there, but that's what it should be. That should be the standard. And you can all achieve that. Brady says, yes, our export's still at 2% of total, so no big deal. You know what? Albanese's fleeced us a lot more than Trump has, and I can't hear anyone fucking whinging about that. Fam74 rocks, even though it's redundant now. Wingnut says, even Kaz, sorry I'm late. That's what she said. You know, and I've got to be either tomorrow or the next day, which is going to scare us. If you're under 25 years old or under 30 and you do online dating, I'm going to judge you here, team, but just give us a thumbs up for a second, just so we know. CFAM was training of 74 done at ALTC. Okay. Defo Profile, that's a good name. Interesting, because how did the Army change your view on Anzac Day? How did the Army change? Defo Profile, I love Anzac Day. I really do. It's also my birthday. You know, Anzac Day is a really weird day. I've had some major things happen on Anzac Days, Remembrance Days. My daughter's born. I was, you know, in Holsworthy, where everyone except the teachers were military. So I've always been military through and through. Anzac Day, what I love about that is seeing the next generation, seeing kids that don't necessarily understand it with their mums and dads. They see the respect from their parents getting passed down, following the footsteps of the Anzacs, you know, and they don't know what's going on, but they know it's mum and dad aren't talking. And they're getting up early, you know, and they're happy and they're dressed up. And I don't care if you're not dressed up. I took this into account the other day. My daughter was looking at my medals, and I don't mind if she touches them, but at the end of the day, she doesn't get to wear them unless I'm dead. So they're always a reminder, you know, that if there's a house fire or whatever, the one thing I've got to save would probably be to tell you the truth. But your medals become an artifact for your family tree. That's what they become. I wish I looked after mine a little bit better. But when you see your daughter or you're playing around with them, you know that you're never going to see them wear them, because for them to wear them, you have to be dead yourself. B-boy, awesome, Kaz. How you make sure that we keep AI and keep the systems strong for cyber attacks? Man, it's a tough one. It is a tough one, because I don't think we can. And it's like criminals. They're always one step above, and then we react to what happens with the countermeasure. I always get to throw the first punch as far as electronic rules of engagement go. Smokey B says, 24 years old and have never touched online dating. I hate the idea of it. It has to happen naturally for me, or else I don't want it. Smokey B, I'm the same way, man. I only hunt in the wild. That's what I do. Last year, this was when I was 15, was reading the Remembrance Day speech with such an attitude, a good attitude. Brady, 237, there you go. Mr. Buck Rooney, sorry he's late. Bucko, I got confused. Someone asked me, would I like to upgrade to the new American grenade instead of the Australian F1? You know as well as I do, it's just a dumb bomb. You know, I don't need the bomb to change. What I need is the strength of people's throwing arm to get back up there. Testosterone. Get an Australian tattoo. You know, you've got male written on the side, but I don't know. Grenades, not so much. Weapons, not so much. Armor, not so much. You know, just getting a uniform. Our greatest talent is technology. It's the people that we employ, and now that has slipped off a cliff, and that's what's got me worried. You know, we're seeing people with DEI actually in command positions. That's the scary bit. Mr. Bucko, we got some pretty bad. Jen G from up north lost her mum today. She's down at Melbourne. Down there, she got the whole so she's going to be a bit of a mess. So if she jumps on your stream, mate, just be aware that she's not in a good position. Yeah, I hope the rain has settled up there in North Queensland. I heard it's simulating what happens in a lady strides after a first date with Kaz. Concerned Aussie, Anzac Day is now another welcome country opportunity, country stuff, unless, you know, there is a place where working with country is a beautiful thing. And I believe that is at the airport when people are coming to Australia for the very first time. It's a lovely way. You know, you've got the Indigenous people of the country that come in and say, welcome to our country. First time here, you know, a little bit of spirituality there. I don't mind that. But don't come and tell me at the footy or any other time welcome to the country when I was goddamn born here. You weren't here when I came onto when I came out of mum and got put in the crib. So I don't need to, and I definitely don't need to be shamed, you know, from the origins of the country where I wore the uniform and been overseas 4 times to come back to someone who didn't walk over with me or couldn't qualify to stand beside me to tell me, you know, that he gives me the go I am. No, thanks. I'll leave that one alone. Won't subscribe to that. Mr. Buckering says, no, still raining, mate. Bruce Highway cut again. It's just the luck, Mr. Buckaroony. As you retire, you finally got a reason to get out of Tully. You know, and then it starts raining now to ruin your retirement time. 150 mils in 2 days, Mr. Buckaroony. There you go. Bradley, 91. What is ECN 229? Brad, can you let us know, please? And sorry for my ignorance, mate. Our memories like as we get older. How could China defeat Australia? AUKUS, the Quad, and the Five Eyes. They can't defeat AUKUS. They can't defeat the Quad, you know, or the Five Eyes, maybe, with some scam phone calls from Mumbai. But other than that, I don't believe China could. They could interrupt Australia. They couldn't take over Australia. We were talking about before, the logistics line would be too long. I don't believe they'd have the capability. Their troops don't have the training. They could definitely cause a black swan event in Australia by their actual Chinese nationals that are in Australian soil right now. And I dare say there is a lot of them that are prepared to do on a moment's notice things that we don't want them to do. But I actually don't see China as an enemy. I see them as a country that are impossibly hard to maintain and keep afloat, and you can't do it by being a nice guy. And they need to rattle that sabre to be able to stay in power, because if you're not in power, then you become quickly, and it doesn't end well for you. Abba Jabba. Hey, mate, I'm interested in joining the ADF. And unsure on what battalion to join. Military Force. What battalion did you join? I was in the 2nd Battalion, mate. I started off in the 2nd, 4th Battalion. I'd recommend as long as you go to towns, but you probably can't go wrong. We've got some 5-7 boys on the stream right now. They're up in Darwin. I'd imagine it's too hot, and unless you're really, 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 really good looking and you think that your looks can compete with 16,000 celebrities from the USMC, then maybe stick with Townsville, Flinders Street, Palmer Street. If you go to Brisbane, too congested. The only people who should be going to 6 and 8, 9 should be people whose actual family, and when I say family, I mean kids and missus, actually live in Brisbane. Kaz was at 4 hour and 2 hour mate in Townsville. There you go. Juicy, what are your thoughts on Australia foreigners but pushing back Aussie citizens? No. When they say they're recruiting foreigners, they mean people that have already served as well. But to be honest, I do think that we need to get some people in, sure, but it depends on the country. Happy to take it from the US, happy to take it from the UK, happy to take it from Canada, happy to take them from New Zealand. Yep. The danger is that if you actually allowed other Commonwealth countries, could you imagine if you opened up to India, you'd have 1 million applicants tomorrow. 1 million. Wingy, Kaz has my number, mate. Grab it off him. Yep, okay. Wingy, I can send it to you, mate. 3 hour hit. 3 hours actually got buckets on the ground in the absence of having the infantry fighting vehicles. If you're in an infantry fighting vehicle, an APC, where do you want to sit? I was always a scout when I was a digger, which meant you'd go all the way into the vehicle, right behind the driver, and I'd be sitting side on, so he's facing that way. And so now it was like being a crab inside the hermit crab. It was fantastic. It's the best spot. The only other spot that I would have enjoyed would have been being up on the back rock, which means as you're looking into each other's eyes with your body armor on, sucking off the invisible man, falling asleep, to the carbon monoxide and into the back of the vehicle, that you get to get the hose that you've been told not to drink from, bring it down, put it in your gob, then you have to use your own water bottles. It's fantastic. The taste of garden hose for the rest of your life. Lightfoot, thought I was in church 36 to 40, and it took me 4 years to realise they were sabotaging my efforts. Buckery says, I actually had to drive a bucket at Pucko in 1986, exercise leopard crawl. Did they know you were in there, Bucko? Because there was a lot of drinking on exercises, especially with signals squadrons in those days, mate. Matty H, plenty of me saying that we will never get US subs. Should we have stuck with the French? The Canadians are taking a close look. No. I don't know what's going to happen, Matty. I really don't know what's going to happen, but we need them. We definitely need them. Nothing works as a strategic asset better than rather than just above it. Yeah. Could sit on a leopard tank as well during a live fire. Now, I feel terrible. I slept with one leopard tank commander's daughters, while he was in Townsville looking her up. Yeah. She was pretty cute. I bet he was a good bloke. They're bloody loud, Mr. Buckery. They are. You don't want to be in front of the second road wheel. And that telephone, the infantry telephone, when you get on that, you don't want to see reverse lights. That's for sure. Simon Powell, Buckery, did you take part in any X at Tyndall in the 90s? I did. That was a hot son of a bitch place, that one. Had dirt for lunch. I heard that the Raffies used to walk around with an air conditioning unit on their back. Yeah, Powley. Does anyone actually think that China is a military threat to Australia? Does anyone think that they can extend that far? Does anyone push it that far with the USA, with the carrier fleets controlling the world's waters? If you saw what happened with the Houthi rebels in the last few days, you don't want to get caught out in that ocean. Otherwise, you might be playing with the octopus's garden and the sharks in between. Hey, Brandon, there you go, mate. Hey, Kaz, get my call from ADF career coach on the 25th. A little worried about that. Had a surgery for a broken hand, but coming from motocross, I feel never gives me curry. What are the chances? Well, it depends, mate. Do you have a long history that's recorded they're going to look at? Because our hands are pretty important in infantry, mate. I'm not sure what corps you're going to, but guys, if you're going to have a coach, honestly, the best thing you can do is come and get on the bat phone. I really understand why this doesn't have more on it. And if you're going to get on the Patreon team, don't become that free member. Come over to the Black Legion, because I don't give the number out to people that aren't willing to buy a cup of coffee for them in return, sometimes a couple of times a week. So come on, come over. Let me see that phone bubble up with your names there. Come on to Patreon. It is my pleasure. I do enjoy talking to you. I learn off you guys as well, and it keeps me young and makes me feel popular. Class celebrity. Yeah, I was on K92 as well there, Pally. That's where I wonder how close we got to each other. Winner says they're subtle, Kaz. They'll do it from within or by extending their influence. I agree with that, and I've let them do it. I totally agree with that, Wingy. The globalists especially. Matty says China might not be a direct threat, but they want the USA out of the Pacific. Yeah, but that won't happen. And I reckon Trump wouldn't fight to keep it. So essentially our part of the world will be under the direction of China. Mate, that can't be true, because we've already got 16,000 troops getting to Australia. Pick your act up. Get your military outfitted. This is not good enough. So that's actual proof, that he would control this waters. He does have a vested interest here and wants it to work out. His shipping lanes are very important to his trade. Unfortunately, our government has already sold most of us off. Philip Lowe, I agree, for a low price too, I'd say. Mr. Buccarini says we sent K9 at a place called Pine Creek from memory. Shit, it was hot. Look, Buccarini, even though as you're a North Queenslander, something happens when you get in a plane, in a Herc or in a Caribou, or a Galaxy, whatever you get into, and you go and land in Darwin. That's a different beast, that heat. It is different. It hits different. And when you're going to get off and be carrying that equipment, by God, you feel like you've copped a beating. And if you think Darwin's hot, guys, wait till you get to fucking East Timor. That is another level above Darwin. The guys that were in APCs from 5-7, and shit, and the cavalry that were with us, it was getting over 55 degrees in the back of the APC, not allowed to get out. Poor bastards. Vehicle mechanic always should be technician, for fuck's sake. There you go. Concerned Islands fishing fleet was off Argentina stirring shit. Yep, that fleet armed with thousands of drones and thousands of kilometres of long lines could really tangle things up, like you said there, Concerned Aussie. But they could get sent packing pretty quickly too. What do you think about the recent surge in popularity of American Tier 1 soldiers talking on podcasts about the missions in Iraq and Afghanistan? And what do you have to be careful about talking about? Well, that's an interesting topic, B-boy. So naturally, you've got to be careful you don't get over your skates. If anyone's going to go onto a podcast, etc., like Zero Limits, Matty Morris, etc., or Sean Ryan, you've got to have the savvy understanding not to name names. That every time you name someone's name, you're compromising them for good or for bad. And if you don't have the actual mission from them, you can end up outing yourself within your own community. As far as tactics, techniques and procedures go and that sort of stuff, all I'd simply say is, can you find it on Google? If you can find it on Google, then you can talk about it. The Australian Army has overclassified things to the point it's pathetic. Americans will actually take you down a nuclear submarine to the bridge and allow cameras to be on, to where the torpedo tubes are. There's a guy called Growler. I forget what the last name of his channel is. Growler something. Help me out, team. On Air Force, a Navy aviator. absolutely amazing. And he's got you inside the cockpit with him, with his camera while he's flying around, taking off. Yet in Australia, they don't want you to be up there on your graduation day. Goddamn pathetic. Pathetic. The bucket, I believe, Kaz, that'd be fairly accurate, but I wouldn't want that paint in my eggs. Well, it was when I was sitting on it. 100% recommend the bat phone, more than worth it. Thanks, Cal77. Consult, I've been to Pine Creek Pub. There you go. What was that one like? Mr. Krug says, beside politics, how you going, Kaz? You're kicking goals with all your dramas with your body. Look, Kruggy, it's an interesting one, mate. Because this is an interesting subject. You know, I've got some of my timeline sort of a little bit confused with what happened when the COVID-19 happened. Now, I believed it until I didn't. You know, when the epidemic happened, I really did until I didn't. You know, read between the lines there. But my old man, he begged me. He goes, mate, he only watched Channel 7, 9 and 10. And he begged me to have the shot and the booster. And I did it basically to shut my old man up because he's my hero. I love the guy. And I got sick not long after that for nearly 2 years, as you know. Not just Crohn's disease, but there's all sorts of weird shit. A C. diff infection, you know, a deep vein thrombosis in my leg. There was one, I believe, in my right leg as well. There's something going on in some other places as well. But I don't know about you guys, but I've got a fatigue that has come on where you could, maybe they call it long COVID, I don't know. But every day it feels like a chronic fatigue syndrome. You know, I end up now, I'll be up until nearly 12, can't sleep, go to bed, can't sleep. But then all through the day, there you are getting called like a siren onto the rocks as a sailor to go back to bed for just a 10-minute lay down that could turn into 4 or 5 hours, punctuated by bat phone calls, which is fine because otherwise you could ultimately end up in coma watching your life disappear. Is anyone else getting that fatigue? The COVID vaccine is bad. I believe it is, Jimmy. You know, I only took it to appease my father, and now I'm, you know, always fatigued. Maybe there's some other things I'd like to talk about, but you can't talk about that sort of shit on here. So I appreciate you, Mr. Krug. I really do with your ask where it's going. But yeah, no, I'd say I'm pretty good, mate. The girls still think that I'm a black man if the light's off. Got some good friends, been speaking to some great people. I'm happy. Scotty, hey, buddy, how you going? Hey, guys, I hope you're all good. Scotty's a truck driver. This is a great way to pass time in the emergency department. Are you back in there, Scotty? I'll have a look at your messages in a sec, mate. Kobe, okay, I was currently waiting for my enlistment date, being told I'm aiming for June. Any advice for winter at Kapuka? It's a cold one, my man. It's a cold one. Man's best friend is extra T-shirt, you know, because it won't overheat you, but also good set of gloves, you know, and also start drinking coffee. And your socks, get some good socks, and your if you want more of a conversation, mate, jump on the bat phone. We're gonna have a bit of a talk, bit of humour, bit of laugh. That, mate, you just got to suck it up. I'd say Kapuka and the School of Infantry and the School of Transport and Corps, maybe Signals as well. It is absolute hell in winter because you're doing full stress regardless of the temperature for prolonged periods of time when all you want to do is climb in under a doona and start dating a girl twice your size for warmth. I was talking to a workmate today. He grew up in Pakistan and is confused why Brits and Americans went into all those Indian and Stan countries and left. He says it was bad before they came, but worse. Yeah, I wouldn't take too much, you know, from Pakistan, mate. They've got enough problems themselves. They left an interesting perspective from the other side of the fence. Yeah. Yep. Just remember, we rarely go somewhere because we like the people. It's normally because there's something there that one of our allies wants. And that's a horrible fact of the matter, man. Do you honestly think that anyone wants to help Ukraine? Because they like the people there, or maybe it's got something to do with trillions of dollars worth of rare metals. That's got more to do with it. Killing two birds, one stone, harming Russia at the same time. You're taking or giving loans that have to be paid back with interest. Yeah. All right, team. Sorry, this one was sort of rough put together. I hope he's got something out of it. There was no real theme for tonight. It was more about answering questions. In conclusion, I'd say that actually conventional bust up with China, can't see it happen economically. I'd be more angry at the way our countries get told by our leadership, not by China just taking advantage of easy and relaxed standards on foreign ownership of assets. They probably can't believe we do it either. Let's just keep watching the world. Let's understand that as this pendulum swings back, there's going to be some uncomfortable times, right, as we readjust, and also to the not just the reaction, but the resistance that's happening from those that have alternative motives and don't like seeing their own countries in a good, happy, proud, patriotic position. Yeah, it seems like everyone that's got a problem, are never the sort of guy that would take up a weapon himself. Yeah, sad. Let's get over it. Why would China invade when they can just buy it? Absolutely, Tomia. Absolutely. Who am I voting for? I wish I could vote for Tony Abbott to come back, to tell you the truth. I actually like Tony Abbott more than John Howard. B-boys, I reckon we should have Army, Air Force, Navy cadets in every public school. They do in private schools. As part of education, could help recruitment and teach young kids about that's a teacher problem, not a history problem, mate. We don't have enough male teachers with testosterone, that's for sure. Okay, guys, let's get out of here. Go and see what's happening on Married at First Sight Survivor Series. We're very, very lucky to tree of plenty. I just hope you have a good life. That's what I hope for. So you guys take it easy. Yeah, Kaz, mate, you can't fake the fact that he was in the SES with any spare time he still got, ran, cycled. Not a big fan, but he had testosterone as well. So we'll let him get away with it, mate. I'm a big fan of the man, to tell you the truth. I'm not a fan of many people at all, but he loved Australia. He absolutely did. Good night. See you, Wingy, young man, and catch you guys later. My youngest two kids in the Army Cadets at the moment, and they're loving it. Thought it would be a good way to give them a small taste of what I do. I love that, Philby, man. And what's more is it opens up a second tier of friendships, mateships, and the standards of friendships. Yeah, you just got to be careful. Some of those cadet leaders, some look like wet mouths. Be careful of those Biden looking. All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks to the moderators. Thanks to our serving people. And there's Jen. Good night, Jen. All the best to you, mate. I know it's going to be a difficult night. This is your first night without your mama. And I'll say a prayer for her tonight, mate. All the best. And she'll be watching you now. Probably having a laugh at you. Every ache she's ever had in the bone is not hurting anymore. When she's watching. All right. If you talk to her, I bet she can hear it. See you later, guys. Keep being yourselves. Love your family. They're not around forever. Take it easy, don't you cow. Bye.